What was discussed exactly? Was he happy with your proposal?
Well, we discussed all the things which we announced yesterday, and certainly the Prime Minister, I think we can work a solution out on the carbon tax. We can ensure that electricity prices will come down for Australians. I think that's a positive thing. To be fair to the Prime Minister, our agenda we announced yesterday was a little bit of a surprise to him. But with any good idea, he's taken time to stop and think and get some advice, and that's what you'd expect him to do. So, we're still discussing those other things.
What was for breakfast?
What? Well, we didn't have breakfast. We had a cup of tea. A cup of tea is good. It steadies the nerves.
Would you say he was receptive to what you announced yesterday?
Yeah, I think the Prime Minister was prepared to look at things. He's got certain policy objectives, and he recognises that he wants to listen to the Australian community. I think that was pretty clear, and all of us can do better than we're doing, and I think that it's good that we've got that positive outcome. What's important is not having a shot at the Prime Minister or Labor or Liberal. It's important we get a good result for the community, and I think I was very grateful to the Prime Minister that was the way he approached it. Yeah.
You don't have a good personal relationship with him, though. Do you think that is healing?
Well, it's not about personalities. It's about what's good for the country. The Prime Minister's a person who's been elected to lead our country. He's someone you've got to have to respect in that role. I personally think he's a good guy. I've known him for a long time personally. I don't think he's an evil person or something like that. In 2010, I stamped around Australia trying to get him elected more than anyone else did in this country. But I think it's important that we stop and think, well, we don't want ideological wars. We don't want to fight. What we are as Australians together is more important than the things that divide us. And with all these political parties, we live in an adversarial position where there's the good guys and the bad guys. And in the end, in the final analysis, we're all Australians.
So Mr Abbott has argued that he wants to see electricity prices come down when the carbon tax.
I think he does. Yeah, I think that's an important aspect of it. And what's the point of reducing it if we don't get the benefit for Australians?
So he was receptive to that idea?
He was receptive to that, yeah.
What about the idea of an ETS? Did that come up at all?
Well, we've had discussions on that, and that's something we'll keep talking about. But it's premature over one meeting to come to a final solution on it.
Did you speak about any other budget policies?
No.
The RET didn't come up?
No, the RET did. That was part of the package we talked about yesterday, but not any other budget policies.
Okay, and what about the Clean Energy Finance Corporation? What was his view on that?
Well, we discussed all those things, but I think there'll be a good outcome for the community, and that's what we want. We want something that's responsible. It's going to make Australia a better place to live.
So would he see keeping the RET and the Clean Energy Finance Corporation as a good outcome for Australia, do you think?
Well, I think you have to ask him that question. I can't really speak for the Prime Minister, but I think I made it pretty clear what I thought yesterday, and Vice President Gore understood that as well. So we're part of the global community, and we want to. It's not just a question of environment; it's a question of access with trade. It's a question of who we are, where we come from, what sort of values we've got, and we've got to make sure that we've got access to those markets in the future.
So effectively, what's going to happen here is the carbon tax is probably going to come off. He agrees with your stipulations.
Well, I don't want to make any announcements until we see the amendments or until we see things in legislation, because what we had in the existing legislation was a voluntary type of pass-through to consumers. And my experience in business is, when I was in business, I was only interested in making money. That's why I went into business, simple as that. I'm not in business now, so I do know how businesses think, and if there's only a voluntary means to pass the money through, I'll put it in my own bank account. That's what they'll say. I don't think that's fair and equitable. It doesn't keep in line with my responsibility as a member for Fairfax. So I'm trying to carry out that seriously.
Did you speak about direct action? You've expressed concerns about that in the past?
We had some discussion about that, but certainly not. That's another item on the agenda. I mean, I think it's good that the Prime Minister does recognise that we do have some form of climate problem. That's why he's got direct action in the first place. But it's important that we work with the world on anything in synchronisation, because from my experience in business, we want to make sure we can access as many markets as we can to create as many jobs for Australians as possible. But we want to do it on a fair basis. We don't want to have, our proposal in the ETS was that we only operate when our other trading partners do, because it's unfair for us to have a penalty or shoulder a burden greater than we've got if other countries are not doing the same thing. I just think that's fair.
You'd said previously that you wouldn't speak to any members of the government until you got more staff. Has that been solved?
Well, I may have been wrong. I may have made a mistake by doing that, and I don't mind saying that, because in the final analysis, I'm hired by the people of Fairfax to represent them, and I can't be too upset or pedantic about those things personally.
So you dropped that demand?
Well, as a human being, I think it's a mistake for me to say I won't talk to anybody. Winston Churchill said a long time ago, that jaw is better than war. And certainly, as Australians, we want to be able to talk to each other and listen. Listening is very important. I'm very happy today that we've had an opportunity for the Prime Minister to listen to some alternative arguments, some call to reason on how this country can be a better place. And I think that's a lesson for all politicians.
So did he manage to persuade you about the benefits of direct action? Do you think that's something you might end up supporting?
Well, to be fair to the Prime Minister, that wasn't the highlight of the agenda. He didn't have enough time to do that. But I know in our project in Western Australia, our environmental approval there, me personally, that we had a proposal to plant 1 million trees a year, I think it was, something like that. So, that's something we have to consider. But, all in all, we want a good outcome for everyone. We don't want to say that it's not the Labor way, it's not the Liberal way, it's the right way. That's what we want for Australians. So we're trying to get all the parties in this Parliament to go the right way for the community. That's our role in Parliament, I think.
So where to now? When's the next meeting with Mr Abbott? Will you be meeting with him again, or will you now go through someone else?
Well, I think we'll have further dialogue in the future. And
any particular time set down?
Well, my office is just up there. His office is just there. It's not too difficult, But we'll just have to consider everything that's happened.
So there's an open door policy from him? You can just wander in now when you feel?
Well, I don't think there's I'd wander in. I have to respect the Prime Minister for who he is. But certainly, if we can play a positive role in protecting some of the rights of Australians and do what and encourage the government to listen to public opinion, I think that's the very essence of our democracy. Being elected to Parliament is one thing, but listening to what the people have got to say, having a dialogue with people, not say forcing your views on things. I mean, I've been wrong many times in my life, and I found that I've benefited and learned from it by admitting that quick as I could and moving on to the next thing. So there's nothing about being the adults or the children. That's not the real big argument. We got out past that argument when we left primary school, really. It's trying to have a reasoned debate. It's not about me being fat or me being a baboon, if you watch Paul Murray. It's about an idea, because being in Parliament's about ideas.
Did you speak about...
Just one step back, Clive, and you'll just be able to, in nice light, if that's it. Look a lot better there. Thanks.
Did you, in terms of the legislative timetable, is it still your understanding the carbon tax repeal will be put in the first couple of weeks in the new Senate? How would you vote?
Well, we'll have to look at the legislation and have to look at the amendments that we will want to put and that the government will want to put, and whether there's a commonality. I mean, the Prime Minister did express his intention to make sure that benefits from the reduction of the carbon tax would flow through to the community. He expressed great confidence in the ACCC to be able to supervise that, but he acknowledged it was on a voluntary type basis. It was something like that. We said, well, we're happy with that, but we think it has to be mandatory. We think that there has to be the clear obligation that the citizens of this country won't be disadvantaged.
So would you expect legislation to be written, put through the House again and then go to the Senate, or will you knock back what's in the Senate now and send something back to the House? How will it go?
Well, I mean, if we make an amendment or the government makes an amendment, if it's accepted by the government, it's just passed as legislation, isn't it, really? I think I'm not sure that, being a novice parliamentarian with little political experience, I've never been in Parliament before. I don't know how these things happen. I'll have to get advice on it. But the main thing is that we get the right answer for people.
Okay, and just finally, again, on the personal front, did you speak about the last meeting? Was there a bearing of the hatchet?
No, but of course, I must confess that I smiled at the Prime Minister when I met him. And when you smile at someone, they smile back at you, And hopefully there you can see into their soul that there's a meeting of common purpose. I mean, a lot of people are in this place from a lot of different parties, right? And they all come here with good intentions and different ideas, And that's the strength of the place, because only by rational debate of different ideas can we get the right answers. And only we can get to those answers and Australians will be the winners. So I'm just reminding people to have that debate, to think about these things and to keep an open mind.
Are you going to reach out to Labor now about your ETS proposal?
Well, as I said to Vice President Gore, we'll do whatever we can do to make this a better world and a better place to live in. And that's what I'll be doing. I'm happy to talk to the Greens, I'm happy to talk to Labor, to Liberals, to any citizen, if we can make that happen. I'm happy to say that if we can provide leadership to the globe, which I think we can, as Australia, I think we've got an opportunity to do that, that we'll do that. That's our obligation as human beings.
Are we providing leadership, though, if we're not taking any steps until 5 other countries do?
Yeah, I think we are, because one of the political realities of life is that most countries will say to themselves, well, look, if we do something, how do we know someone else will do it, right? Because this is a global problem. It's much the same in Australia when we had a number of separate colonies, right? We decided that we'd have federation. We needed to get 5 or 6 of people to agree. There was those discussions, there's those debates. But when everyone said they would come together, then it happened. That's how humans have faced these problems before. Not by saying that we're going to do something different, you do something different. Then we have a system that doesn't work, that disadvantages companies, affects our jobs, and they'll break down. We've got to approach it rationally and saying that we are a lot more together than we are separately, that we can achieve more as a team than we can as individuals. After all, that's why we have a country. That's why we're Australians.
Just on Al Gore, some people are calling him a sellout, Dan, saying that you paid him to come. What exactly was the arrangement financially with him?
Nothing. He came here for the air. I did buy him dinner, I think, when he got here, you know, and said I was happy to meet with him, you know. I didn't give him any consideration in any way because, you know, Al Gore is a person of great integrity and he's got an excellent reputation. But, you know, it challenges the concept of journalists themselves to see that me and Al Gore together. Is it so bad that two people talk to try to get a resolution, that they don't concentrate on the problem, that they're not forever apart, that they seek a solution for the globe? You know?
It is pretty strange though, isn't it? 2 years ago he was praising Julia Gillard for bringing in the carbon tax and he's standing next to you praising you for effectively removing it.
Well, life is a journey. You know, we all go through different phases of our life, and I'm sure when you were 17 or 18 you had different views than you do now. You know, that's part of our human development, it's part of our debate and our process. If you've got an open mind, you listen to the arguments. No point having the discussions if you're not going to be open to changing your mind if it's proven you're wrong.